Hello. Welcome to episode 19 of 5D Tea Time. I'm your co-host, Lindsay Love, and this is
Kristen.
Kristen. I love you. So today we were talking about this idea of living versus existing on the planet Earth. So what did you come here to do? What did I come here to do? Kristen, what did you come here to do? Did we come here to live, or did we come here purely to exist? And so first, let's define or decipher what the difference is between living and existing. Kristen, what does that look like for you?
Livin.
Livin.
Living
Oh,
and
that's
loving.
from oh my gosh.
What is it?
I'm confused.
What,
Isn't it?
what is it?
Dazed and
Days.
Confused.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I watched that too many times,
Well,
probably.
we loved that movie in high school, that's for sure.
Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was good. Um, Living and loving. Yeah, I think to me, living, it's like has the word alive in it. It's active. It's engaged. It's um, yeah, like creative. It's energy. Like living is um, activity, and um, existence feels passive.
Mm-hmm.
Existence feels like, it's interesting because as we were talking about it, or as you introduced us, like, oh, it's a dichotomy. But now I'm kind of like, there's like a middle ground, because existence can have activity in it as well. But if we're going to just talk about the dichotomy, like living feels like, oh, engagement. I'm engaged with this process of becoming a fully realized human being, and what this like magnificent capacity is, like living. I'm alive and I'm bringing life into this cellular database, and like improving it and improving upon itself, and just like understanding, activating, engaging with the mechanics of life, and like understanding and learning about that, evolving through the body, and growing. Feels like growth. Living feels like open growth, and open mind, and open heart, and like, really metabolizing the content that is my life, and making it better. um an existence feels like, oh yeah, life's happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit more of like a backseat energy, where just kind of like letting it happen, and maybe being a little bit more like, I don't want to say necessarily like victimized by it, but it could go into that psychological like pathway, but more just like a recipient. Like, oh, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going to kind of like let it drop into me. And uh, existence feels a little bit less like participatory, like less conscious. Um, it feels less engaged. That would be like, maybe if we were to put it into a dichotomy, um, probably how I would describe those categories. Yeah, I feel like there is a way to be in existence that is fully participatory, um, and to be in an activity of existence.
What do you
But
mean by that? I mean, I can't, I have a good idea, but I would love for you to put it into words.
um, well, like, there is a sense of like being receptive, being more on like the passive end of things from like an external perspective. Like we can be kind of in a state of kind of meditative existence, yet fully engaged and turned on from within. Like we are actively participating in the breath and in the, so, but even that is, okay, so I don't know, but sorry, I'm kind of like all over the place as I'm working through it myself. But in that meditative state where it's seemingly in stillness from the outside, there can be a lot of participation and aliveness and growth and change and like turning on and tuning in, um, that actually um, is a uh, uh, like creative activity of life. So even in existence, but I think like psychologically, like, oh, I'm just existing. Oh, I'm just like here, like I'm like kind of like dead on the inside. I'm not gonna like, I'm just gonna take the world as it is maybe like existence. Like I'm just gonna take the world as it is. I can't change it. This is just the way it is. It's the way it's how it's always been. This way it's always gonna be. It's going to shit. And yeah, we're gonna go extinct and just be wiped out, and that's it. That's a story. That's the existence. But the living is like, oh, like I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know it, I feel it. I'm gonna engage in and through that inner knowing. And yeah, whether we're in movement or in stillness, that turned on engagement is like living. That is the process of life. And, okay, sorry, I had to work through that. Sorry if that
No.
was like a little bit of a tornado or hurricane energy, but that seems to be the
Well,
theme too.
and that's the purpose of what we're doing here, right? It's just like having these conversations and working through it within ourselves as well, and then externally for other people to maybe work through it as well as we're working through it. So
Yeah.
it's quite perfect. But yeah, you're right. The living has like a vibrancy to it, you know, alive. I love when you said alive, you know, it's energetically like every cell is switched on in the body. And we talked about this too prior to this video, is this curiosity. And I think curiosity plays so well into living, because in existing, the idea of existing, you're right. I mean, life is happening to us, right? Life is, I don't have a lot of control. It's destined to be that way. And I don't know about you, and maybe we can talk about this next, but I really believe that we can create our lives with our outcomes, or what we want to create in our life, with our goals, or sorry, with our thoughts, words, and actions, and the way we energetically vibrate towards those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, living with this curiosity that's attached to it, it's like, wow, life, it's so cool. And we've talked about a child many times, and seeing life through a child's eyes, but it's basically like that. A child is so curious. Or think if you're like an indigenous person, you know, and you've grown up in the Amazon your entire life, and the only thing that you've really been exposed to is the beauty of the rainforest, and how to hunt, and the culture of the tribes, and the ways of the tribes, and the traditions, and the dress, and the food, and all of that. And then you're taken on a plane to New York City for the first time. I mean, imagine the change of life, right? It's like there's a curiosity there, there's an excitement there, like, what is this thing? And it's kind of like a child as well, as they grow. What is that word? What does that mean? Why are there stars in the sky? Why is the moon so bright? What's happening here? Why is the water blue? Why is the grass green? And there's this curiosity and an aliveness that's associated with that curiosity. And then, so as we grow in time, of course, that curiosity lessens and lessens in regards to like the basics of life. But if we can remain in that energy of like, ooh, what do I want to learn today? Or listening to somebody explain something that we've never heard about before, or a curiosity about another human being, or a curiosity about a new place. I think that, like, that energy really a living embodied, like that's like the embodiment of living, is this curiosity and this vibrancy for life and whatever's happening on this planet. And that may look different for every, I mean, curiosity may change for each individual. But for me, you know, this planet, there's so much to be explored. There's so much adventure to have. There's so many incredible things and places and people. And so living feels like that, like what's next? What do I want to explore next? What do I want to learn about next? How what do I want to create in my life next? And existing, the back seat was a really good visual, like kind of sitting in the back seat and allowing life to drive you wherever it wants to take you. So when you're talking about this idea of existing in meditation and kind of like the quietude of that, the peacefulness of that, there is a sense of existing just because there's a peace and a calm. There's not a lot of like actual action, but internally there is. So that still, for me, would really be kind of coupled with the concept of living rather than existing. For me, I think it would kind of scale more to that spectrum. But that said, okay, so sorry, I kind of went around in numerous directions, but I'm curious, do you think that we have the ability to create our life or create things that we want to occur, or some people call it manifest? Do you think that we have that power, or do you think that life is just happening to us and basically, you know, there's a destiny, we can't control any of it?
I feel like it's our birthright to claim that power, to claim that connection as creator of our life. You know, it feels, I do want to talk about existential crises as well,
Yeah.
because that is something that people go through, you know, in the process of living. But just to stay, you know, tuned with this question of, yeah, I do feel it is completely within our um like aptitude and like it is accessible to us to be connected with, and I think this is like free will, you know, this is like where free will really comes in. Like we can choose how we participate or not participate in life. So like one way or another, life is going to be happening with us and to us and through us, because life is just the forces of nature. And it will, you know, if we're blocking it, it will find a way to, you know, change us. So we can just be in the kind of non-participatory existence and think that it's all happening to us. And um, it's a bit more of like a fatalist position.
Mm.
And and then there is that, like, oh, I am creator or co-creator with this cosmic force of the universe that moves through what we understand as vibration, energy, and frequency, you know, the 3 points of Nikola Tesla's understanding of how energy moves and translates through matter, that we're actually not matter, we're actually vibration. You know, you know, when we kind of scale out, we're just these movements of energy. I mean, it looks very dense and like form because we're very narrowed in and very much here. But as you scale out, we're just particles and waves, right? So it's like, how are we participating in this dance of vibration, energy, and frequency? And how are we interpreting those movements of this, of nature? I mean, it's nature. vibration, energy, and frequencies are like, this is the flow of nature. So I feel like when we come into more of a curious relationship with that, I love curiosity as like a keynote to living. As we like open and explore and become curious about that relationship of nature moving through these bodies, we can direct it. We can kind of allow it to move us, to change us, to transform us, and we can learn to like harness that energy and direct it through the heart. Through, because as we become aware that we are creators or co-creators with nature, with these force fields, we do begin to have these what we call manifestations, manifestation powers, but what really allows for those manifestations to come to life is through the magnetic field of the heart. The magnetic field of the heart is like 1,000 times more strong than the electrical field of the brain, or magnetic field of the brain. So, when we really like come into the heart, that's really when we can start to, manifest what the like aligned intention of nature is trying to do with us. Yeah, but I definitely feel that we have that latent power and potential to directly manifest and create the life that we dream inside of us. And there's a lot of like refining of these forces of nature and learning how to come into right relationship with vibration, energy, and frequency, come into right relationship with nature. So as we can, to allow that to, because nature wants to flourish, like nature wants to prosper. Nature is abundance. Nature is, the cosmic nature is love. It's what binds everything together. So it's that wants to unlock inside of each and every one of us. So I feel that like when we come into that right relationship and allow the natural changes to kind of move through us, and we really start to move into that heart space of co-creation, I do feel that we truly can manifest our visions, dreams, desires that we feel inside of our souls. And there's a lot of like manifestation, along the way. It's just like sometimes manifestation, if it's coming from like places that aren't the heart, there's always like some sort of catch. It's like, oh yeah, you get that, but you lose that. And that's like the law of duality, and you're still playing in duality. So like there's levels of manifestation, but like to truly manifest from the heart, it's like truly like just that love and abundance and the all is well and all is provided, through this natural universal alignment. Of course, I kind of blew it out of the waters again. Sorry, I kind of go from 0 to 10 there. But I mean, do you feel that we have the powers of manifestation? Like, do you feel that like we can actively participate and create the life that we envision? Or do you feel that like, it's preset and it's just going to happen to us? Or is it something in the middle, which is probably...
I love this. This is something I've pondered for a very long time. So this is great. I feel like it's something in the middle, and even listening to you talk kind of verified that a little bit for me. So because you were saying like by living and communing with nature and kind of coming into one with our being and what, in a way, it's like coming into one with what we came here for, what we're destined to do. So I really do believe that there is a predestined kind of feel to our existence and to coming into existence. Like there are predestined things, like set points along the way, right? That are like, okay, this is, the point where you pass on to the next life, or this is the point where something big happens to shift your whole perspective and shift everything in one's life, so I feel like there are destined points, and I also feel like there's somewhat of a destined outcome we're trying to reach within our lifetime, but there are many paths to experience that and to get there, and eventually we do get there. But do we want to be an active participant in that journey and creating along the way? Well, that is our choice, right? We can be a series of unfortunate events that gets us to our destined point, or we can say, okay, I mean, maybe when we come into alignment, we feel we already know what our destiny is. We know where we want to get to. And then comes the creativity and the play of like making choices along the way, or creating things, co-creating things along the way, manifesting things along the way that either take us closer or further away from that thing. But even if they're taking us further away, there's a purpose in that, because it ultimately brings us closer at the end of it all. So if we move further away, we have that awakening point where it's like, actually that manifestation isn't quite in alignment with what I'm here to do and what I really do want to create. And so those are kind of the lessons along the way. And so, yeah, I think we have this really powerful creative ability within us to manifest, to create things. And it can be something as small as like bananas or, a life partner. I remember when I lived in Hawaii, and I just was really in the flow of life, and I find that when I'm really in the flow of life, manifesting is easier. It like I think things and then eventually they happen, but they almost seem to come quicker when I'm in the flow. They seem to come to fruition quicker. And I finished surfing one day, and I got in the house and I was like, oh, I want to make a smoothie. Oh man, I forgot to get bananas. Like I need bananas. I forgot to get them at the farmer's market. And I literally walk outside and walk around the house, and bananas had fallen down from the tree, and there was like 40 bananas on the ground right there. And so, is that manifestation or coincidence or a psychic insight? I don't know. But what I have discovered is like, the more I am in the flow, and then if I need things or I want things and I think about them, the quicker they come, and they come in really unique and funny ways. So I always love that. But coming back full circle, I do really feel we have this powerful ability to create and to create what it is we want in our lives. But I do feel like there is a bit of a predestined point that we're trying to, or that we're going to make it to ultimately.
Okay, what I love most about that story is that you were surfing and then this all happened. So like you were out in nature, in the water, in the Pacific, like just having this huge connection to
Mm-hmm.
your heart and to the waves, the water, doing something that you love. So your consciousness was like,
Yeah.
open. You were in the heart field. And you're
Yes.
like, and you're you need the smoothie because, replenishment.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, bananas. And there were bananas. I mean, but it's such a beautiful example of like the heart connection to manifestation. Because you
Mm-hmm.
reference this time in Hawaii, as like a phase point where it was flow, you're following your intuition, and
Yeah.
you were so connected to your body and to nature in the way that probably is your favorite way to. I mean, I guess surfing's like top for you.
Yes. Yes, you're right about that.
So I mean, that's just like a key thing for me, is that like your heart was like wide open for the ease of the abundance of the manifestation. And like there it was banana, Like, what if we keep practicing this and we keep engaging with the heart, putting our body and our minds and our hearts into spaces where there's like that expansion.
Mm.
And then it's like, and then we create from there, like the riches are, the abundance is in that field. It is just, it is all here, actually. There is no lack in the universe, actually. We're just
Mhm.
stuck into a lack consciousness in this material plane that we've got trapped in, right? So we're rebuilding to that heart expansion to remember abundance as the birthright. And
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's just so interesting because I do believe, like ultimately I kind of brushed it off and I was like, was that a psychic insight? Was it coincidence? Was it manifestation? Deep down, I believe it was manifestation. And I believe that as we come more into coherence with this energy and this connection within ourselves, that heart energy that you're speaking of, the manifestation speeds up. And so a few episodes ago, we were talking about, the new world that we're moving into, that we want to create, the 5D or the tri-wave, right? And I think I might have mentioned that when I described like what my picture of the new world was like things are manifested almost instantaneously. Like the powers of manifestation are so quick that we really have to be cognizant of our thoughts, our words, our actions. Because if we have the ability to manifest beautiful things, we also have the ability to manifest struggle and um, challenges in life as well. So that's a huge responsibility. And so that's another purpose of living. Like if we're just existing, then we're just caught in that mindset of things just happen to us, right? It's a very disempowered place. And also it can be a negative place of like, oh, this thing happened, so that's probably going to happen. And ultimately, if we are creator beings, we're participating in our creation of those negative or challenging things as well. So as we evolve and move into this energy of quicker, more instant manifestation coming and operating from the heart, we must be mindful of, our thoughts, words, and actions, because things will be happening more quickly at a more rapid pace. So we won't have as much time between our thoughts, words, and actions of what we want to create and the actual manifestation of it, which, if there's a negative or a challenging piece in there, of course, we have time to change our thinking and change our mindset about those things if we're aware. But if we're having instant manifestation or quicker, more up-leveled, faster manifestation, we're really going to have to be quite aware all of the time of what's happening, not only here, but up here and coming from here, and even the actions with the body.
yeah. It sounds like just kind of a greater responsibility, and one that feels correct. It feels like, oh, there's a want, a desire to be more aligned and in universal right relationship mentally through our words, our hearts, our actions. Um, yeah, definitely. So beautiful. When you were talking to you, I was seeing like living and exist, and I was like living, life, exist, exit. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like, like those words are kind of encoded in those words. Like exist, it's just kind of like you're here and then you leave. It's just like you're just kind of moving towards the exit point. you know like it's just like almost like a declination, and like life is more like an exaltation, where it's um like I don't know. I mean, it's all there's always an exit point, but the exit point is more of a lift off. Like life is, yeah, life kind of elevates and existence kind of just drops off and exits. Um,
Yeah, it reminds me of a choice point, too, in life. It's like we get to choose. I mean, that's the beauty of, like you were saying, free will, but that is the power of the existence. Like, we get to choose whether we're doing one or the other. And this goes beyond, socioeconomic status or living conditions or anything like that. I mean, I've seen some of the poorest people in the world in different communities eh, choose happiness and joy and love, and just be vibrating at it and glowing at this, just existing at this vibration is quite profound. So that is the beauty of it. We get to choose whether we live or we exist. And sometimes we can't always control the circumstances around us, but we get to control our choice point. We get to control, where we're operating from in the body. We get to control, what our thoughts and our words and our actions are. And so there's a huge beauty in that, because it's not dependent upon how much money you have in the bank, or how many beautiful things you have around you, or how many people are around you. It could be, I'm alone, but I'm choosing to live. I came here for a purpose. I want to be fully embodied in this experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Yeah, I'm just like flashing to some images in my travel of just like absolute joy and so much light and playfulness, in some of the eyes of these people. And then in that same scenario, some people just like sitting there, just like watching time go by, just, and like one has the open, curious, engaged mind, and the other is just, turned off, just taking things at face value, letting the world have the driver's seat, letting the situation, letting life, as it's handed to us, have the driver's seat. And in a sense, I mean, I think we all go through like existence up to a certain point. Like you said, there's a choice point, and then at that point we decide, like, okay, I'm taking the reins now. Like, I'm taking the reins from, like the parenting of my inner child is now mine. Like, I'm taking the reins from my parents now. I'm going to take the reins from the education system. Oh, religion, thank you. I'll take that back. Government, yeah, thank you. I'm sovereign. Like, oh, okay, like I'm in, and that to me is like, now I'm in the driver's seat. And it is my responsibility to refine the system, and that is a big journey.
Yeah.
That's a big journey.
Well, another
Oh
thing
yeah,
that
now I got the reins. What? Sorry.
No, just the last thing I want to bring up is, because like I said before, is a choice point, and then we just talked about that, but also it's a good thing to think about or consider when making choices or decisions. Like, what makes me feel really alive, and what just feels like I'm being safe and existing, and safety isn't bad. I'm sorry. That sounded, I shouldn't have connected safety with that. But sometimes we choose existing because it does feel comfortable or safe over, the thing that might make us feel really alive, but it's kind of scary and wrought with fear and the unknown and really uncomfortable. So I think that's a cool thing to just consider, when there is a big decision happening in your life, or a choice that maybe someone's struggling with. It's like, okay, well, in which scenario am I living, and in which scenario am I existing? And if I am existing, am I okay with that? Or do I prefer to be in the driver's seat? Do I prefer to be living? And yeah, it's a choice, and there's no judgment on either, but the excitement of living is just the creativity and the vibrancy and the curiosity and everything that comes along with that, for me is I try to exist more in that place of living.
Yeah.
So it's just a
And
preferred
there
choice for me.
is that in those choice points too, like choosing aliveness, it's like literally letting life guide us and direct us. It's moving the choice point into right relationship with the universe. We're not like, ooh, I'm gonna be excited when I go and hurt somebody. Like we're not talking about that. We're not talking about
Mm-mm.
toxicity here, and we're, I mean, these principles that we're speaking to are like do no harm. It's like,
Yes, absolutely.
we're in like this is like cosmic law that we're talking about being responsive to, and that we're in communication with, and that like we are responsible to that, and that is what is directing us and guiding us into that like aliveness. And cosmic law, universal law, is universal love. It's nothing else. It's not anything else. So if it's not in sync with that, you'll get knocked, in some
Yes.
way.
Yes, this is a very good point. I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So aliveness is aliveness, that fueling of that energy, vibration, and frequency that is like those universal principles of right relationship. And yeah, honoring the elements and honoring life as sacred.
Mhm.
Completely. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Because ultimately it really feels like we are here to create a more safe and sound and
I love
harmonious
that.
world.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that we can express and share our gifts and our spark of life that is our birthright to deeply connect with and shine and share and express through our voice, our breath, our actions. Yeah. Yeah, I love this conversation. Every conversation we have, Lindsay, I just feel so much more. I'm so emotional today. And like I cried through a lot of yoga again. It's like, oh, yeah, processing something because here come like the ocean of tears. I just feel so, yeah, just so much more on point after these conversations, and so much more connected to like my body and my groundedness, but also like my expansiveness, my higher mind, and really, yeah, catalyze that. So thank you for this space.
Thank you, girl. I mean, I feel the same. I think higher minded is such a good term for it because sometimes I can get really caught in the granular, existence of what's happening every moment here and now, and stuck in a very analytical mind. Um, and it's really nice to just, be pulled out of that and the higher perspective and reminded, because it's a constant practice. I mean, life is a practice of like, oh, I'm creating with my thoughts, words, and actions. I need to be mindful of those things, and sometimes there's a slip and sometimes I come back around. But these conversations really just pull me back into not only the purpose, but the perspective that I need and want in my life. It's just always a beautiful reminder.
Yay, so grateful, and so grateful to our listeners and our viewers. And really, if these conversations like would help and support like a family member, a child of yours, teenager, or your grandmother, or grandfather, like just share the video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and like it and comment, because that kind of populates and energizes the algorithm, and that's what this functions inside of on YouTube. So please, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please, please, please.
Thank
And thank you. Please and thank you.
you. Yeah, so wonderful, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye. Mhm. Mhm.